So, all right, before you jump to the comment section and completely roast me or agree with me 100%, please take the time to hear me out in this video because I think both sides will understand what I'm saying. So let's get at it. So first off, let's go ahead and get the bad out of the way. They're expensive. The 2024s now start at $31,000 for the two-door base models. The Rubicon starts at $50,000 and the Rubicon 392 starts at a staggering $88,000. So when you're going out to get a new Jeep right now, it can be incredibly expensive depending on your budget. And then there's the second thing. There's the gas mileage. Obviously, this is not a very aerodynamic vehicle, so it gets incredibly bad gas mileage, especially when you start to lift it like we have here on 37s. It just continues to go downward. So it's a number that I don't even begin to look at. It becomes miles per miles instead of miles per gallon. And then, as I mentioned just previously, this thing is a rolling brick. It is a wind tunnel nightmare. If you look at it, it's basically a big rolling brick through the air that makes for a very noisy ride. When you couple that with the soft top, even the hard top, you get a lot of wind noise and rattles within this Jeep just because of the aerodynamics of the thing. And while we're talking about the ride, it also rides really rough. The off-road suspension and basically the lack of any kind of like sports car handling makes this thing so it is a very rough ride out on the road when you couple it with the other variables that I just talked about. And then for that really high price tag, the interior is pretty lousy. Now, granted, Jeep has tried to do a big jump up with the new 2024s, but up until this point, since 1944, you have not been able to get a nice interior in a Jeep for the price point. I mean, if you even just look at other Jeeps at this price point from their own brand, you can get a lot nicer interior for this price range than you can in a Wrangler. Now, that said, this thing has been reined in several times, so I'm not going to leave a sunroof open in a Grand Cherokee, but at that price point, you would probably expect just a little bit more. And then one of the biggest things is these things are grossly underpowered. Even in stock form on stock tires, the acceleration is horrible and there isn't a whole lot of torque. Now they did just come out with that new 392 Hemi, but like I said, to even start to get into that in stock form, you're looking at $88,000. So when it comes to the standard motors in the Jeeps over history, they've really been underperforming for what you actually use the Jeep for. And then lastly, they're incredibly easy to break into. You don't keep anything valuable that you want to actually hold on to in a Jeep. I remember my first Jeep in high school got broken into multiple times because it's just too easy to unzip the soft top and get in. So really, if you listed off all those criteria, high price, rough ride, terrible gas mileage, why do people actually buy these things? So let's get into the good that actually creates the experience that Jeep owners have. And first off, there is the top-down experience. It is a convertible, but it's not just any convertible. It's a convertible. You could take the doors off. You could put on safari doors. It has a great top-off experience with a really open cockpit due to the roll cage. So there's not quite another top-off experience like you get with the Jeep. Then, of course, there's the big one. There's the community. You have things like Jeep Beach Week. You have Facebook groups, communities, meetups, off-road and on. There's everything from the Jeep Wave to getting ducked. There is no other car that you have in the automotive industry that has a community like the Jeep does. It's a bunch of rabid fans that love their Jeeps and go to great lengths to get together with other people that like them as well. And then there's also the history. It has been an American icon since 1944 when Willys made the first CJ or civilian Jeep, and it has been a staple and a very long-running brand for a continuous period of time. And then there's my personal favorite, which it has one of the biggest aftermarket communities in the world. It is limitless, almost to a fault, how much you can do to a Jeep Wrangler. You could drive down the street for the rest of your life and never see another one exactly like yours. As you can see with ours, we have done a lot of work to it. I got that kind of OEM plus experience, but you can go all the way to flat out rock crawlers, to my friend's LSA V8 supercharged powered monster, to some kind of atrocious things that you never thought should have existed. So if you are into customizing your vehicles and really getting something that really is your personality personified, a Jeep is a great way to do that because you can literally do anything to these things. And that kind of leads me into my next point, which it's a toy. When you experience all the bad things with this, it still just makes you smile. It literally is a toy that you get to drive out on the road and really enjoy. And then also it holds its value really well. As I mentioned, the new ones are really expensive, but the used market's not that better. I still see Jeeps with over 100,000 miles going for 30,000 plus, which is just insane. There are very few car brands that hold their value like a Jeep does. So when you actually spend this money on one, it actually does hold its value very well. It's also one of the very few brands where aftermarket modifications don't take away from the value, they can add slightly to it. And that is very rare in the automotive industry. Any of the cars that I've modified did not add to the value at all. So with the Jeep, if you're done tastefully, it could actually add to the value of the used market, and the used market's already strong to begin with. The Jeep also has this kind of it factor that hasn't seemed to be able to be duplicated. It has the longest running string out of any of them. Whether it be the Suzuki Samurai, the Xterra, the new Bronco, they've all kind of tried to replicate this community and long-lasting success and just haven't been able to do it. So with the Jeep, there's just something about it that makes it different than the rest, and I think it has a lot to do with that aftermarket and community aspect. And then lastly, you have to mention the off-road experience. Now, I venture to guess about 98% of Jeeps never see anything more than a gravel road. However, you could take a stock Jeep off-road and it performs pretty well. And then you can go so extreme to custom-made rock crawlers that could do just about anything. And it's one of the very few brands, if the only one, that can actually do that wide of a spectrum off-road. So if you want someone who wants to go camping and just do casual off-roading, a stock Jeep will do just fine. If you want to get really technical about it and really go hardcore, you can modify a Jeep to the point where it is almost fully custom, which is a really cool experience. So there it is. There's something about the Jeep Wrangler that just is different than the rest of them. But it is quite possibly one of the worst vehicles ever made. That's why I love to call it the worst vehicle and best vehicle ever produced at the same time. So guys, I want to hear what you think down in the comment section below. Do you agree with me, disagree? I want to know what you think about Jeeps. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing to Sutton Garage for more videos like this in the future. And until then, on to the next one. Thanks guys, see you.